going on, Breaking Brown family? Give me 1 second. What's going on, fam? What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Listen, get your libations together. Get everything you need for the show. Everything you need. What's going on? What's going on, Lady C? I appreciate the moderators. What's going on, Yvonne? What's going on, Benita? What's going on, Tyler? What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Breaking Brown family? Listen, I had a different topic about not telling the whole truth and how that limits our politics. But since the conversation from the last show is still going, I need you to, we're gonna continue the conversation. So please get your water or your chamomile tea if you're trying to unwind, or whatever you do when you do how you do what you do after work, or whatever you're doing to support your family. Please do that. Also, please hit the like button right now. Just take a moment to do that. Please hit that bell to get notifications if you haven't already. I know some people who are already in here probably have already done that. Also, if you want to share, please try to share it in your groups. Please try to share it on your page. I think we give you enough information to defend what we say here. Also, if you want to donate, go to donatebrown.com, or you can go to breakingbrown.com, subscribe to the newsletter, make a monthly donation, or make a one-time donation, whatever you're comfortable or your account allows you to do. Get this right. Please do that. So, as we start this conversation, for those of you who were not here last week, or you were going through some things and not last week, but on Monday, if you were going through some things and you don't really remember Monday's show, we talked about an article in the New Yorker called "My Great Grandfather, the Nigerian Slave Trader," and got a lot of conversation popping and a lot of accusations going. Yvette, you're anti-African, you're anti-Nigerian, a whole lot of conversation going. So I thought one of the things that I would do today is come back and I think sometimes that people think when they bring heat, it's going to kind of make me back off. But what happens is I just go deeper. That's just what happens. That's just my nature. I'm not going to because there was nothing wrong. There was nothing xenophobic. There was nothing anything. So when I'm looking at this title, and it says, "My great grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader," once I started to dig even deeper than we dug on Monday's show, what I realized is this. The title was wrong. The title was wrong. Once you begin to understand that slave trading was, the trading of flesh was the African West Coast, once you begin to understand that, you begin to tweak a few things, and this is the new title that you come up with. I'm going to just bring it up big. This is the most accurate title. My family, the Nigerian slave traders. This is what the title should have been. Because what she tries to do, ladies and gentlemen, she tries to make this about a few slave traders, and one of which happens to be her great-grandfather. But when you really begin to understand the slave trade and how the trading was happening, how many bodies were being moved, when you begin to understand how many ports were on West Africa, when you begin to understand that this preceded Europeans, you begin to understand that this was always your enterprise. And it's not just one chief's enterprise. This is not some enterprise of one person, one man who decides that he's going to do it, but no one else is complicit in doing it. This is not that kind of enterprise. This is not that kind of enterprise. I want you to understand something. And I'm about see before I read it though, I want to put this article up. So that those of you those of you here with me and we're having this conversation, so that you can go right now and just go look it up, so that you'll have it up, because I'm gonna read the whole thing, and I want you to have it up so that you can read with me. So I know if you probably can't if you're reading from if you're from your mobile device, but if you have a laptop available to you right now, I want you to pull this up, because I'm gonna read from it and we can read together, because it's from 2008. It's from Henry Louis Gates. It has some good data in it. And it lays the framework for why what she was talking about is basically hogwash. It makes no sense. It's not true. This is not about a few chiefs, ladies and gentlemen. This is not about, one man or two men or a few people did some bad stuff. This is not about that. This is about the money. This is about how slavery was everything to you. Okay? So we have to understand that. And, I wanted to just kind of read some of it, but I realized when I was reading it that I have to read most of it. Right? I wish there was another way to do it, but there's no other way to do it. So, here we have it. So if you have it pulled up, bear with me. I'm going to read it. We'll come back and we're going to discuss what it means. And I'm just going to start with the third paragraph. For those of you who are reading along, while we are familiar with the role played by the United States and the European colonial powers like Britain, France, Holland, Portugal, and Spain, there is very little discussion of the role Africans themselves played. And that role, it turns out, was a considerable one, especially for the slave trading kingdoms of Western and Central Africa. These included the Akan of the kingdom of Asante in what is now Ghana, the Fon of Dahomey, now Benin, the Mbudu of Ndongo in modern Angola, and the Congo, today's Congo, among several others. For centuries, Europeans in Africa kept close to their military and trading posts on the coast. Exploration of the interior, home to the bulk of Africans sold into bondage at the height of the slave trade, came only during the colonial conquest, which is why Henry Morton Stanley's pursuit of Dr. David Livingstone in 1871 made for such compelling press. He was going where no white man had gone before. How did slaves make it to the coastal forts? The historians John Thornton and Linda Haywood of Boston University estimate, hear me? Estimate that 90% of those shipped to New York, to the New World, were enslaved by Africans and then sold to European traders. I'm going to read that one more time for y'all. Please let me read that one more time. How did slaves make it to these coastal forts? The historians John Thornton and Linda Haywood of Boston University estimate that 90% of those shipped to the New World were enslaved by Africans and then sold to European traders. 90%. The sad truth is that without complex business partnerships between African elites and European traders and commercial agents, the slave trade to the New World would have been impossible, at least on the scale it occurred. Advocates of reparations for descendants of those slaves generally ignore this untidy problem of the significant role that Africans played in the trade, choosing to believe the romanticized version that our ancestors were all kidnapped unaware of the evil white man, like Kunta Kinte was in Roots. The truth, however, is much more complex. Slavery was a business, highly organized and lucrative for European buyers and African sellers alike. The African role in the slave trade was fully understood and openly acknowledged by many African Americans even before the Civil War. Okay? Even before the Civil War. For Frederick Douglass, it was an argument against repatriation schemes for the freed slaves. Here's Frederick Douglass. The savage chiefs of the western coast of Africa, who for ages have been accustomed to selling their captives into bondage and pocketing the ready cash for them, will not more readily accept our moral and economical ideas than the slave traders of Maryland and Virginia. He warned, we are, therefore, less inclined to go to Africa to work against the slave trade than to stay here to work against it. He's saying, listen, why am I go to Africa for? They sold us over here. And they selling bodies out. What am I go there for? To be sold off somewhere else? No, I'll fight my battle here. Isn't that the same thing I've been saying? Let's continue. To be sure, the African role in the slave trade was greatly reduced after 1807, when abolitionists, first in Britain and then a year later in the United States, succeeded in banning the importation of slaves. Meanwhile, slaves continued to be bought and sold within the United States, and slavery as an institution would not be abolished until 1865. But the culpability of American plantation owners neither erases nor supplants that of African slavers. In recent years, some African leaders have become more comfortable discussing this complicated past than African Americans tend to be. We just dug our heads into a hole and we hide it there. In 1999, for instance, President Matthew Keruku of Benin astonished all black congregation in Baltimore by falling to his knees and begging African Americans forgiveness for the shameful and abominable role Africans played in the trade. Other African leaders, including Jerry Rawlins of Ghana, followed Mr. Keriku's bold example. Our new understanding of the scope of African involvement in the slave trade is not historical guesswork. Thanks to the Transatlantic Slave Trade Database, directed by the historian David Eltis of Emory University, we now know the ports from which more than 450,000 of our African ancestors were shipped out to what is now the United States. About 16% of United States slaves came from eastern Nigeria, while 24% came from the Congo and Angola. And this was in 2010, so we have more information now, right? Through the work of Professor Thornton and Haywood, we also know that the victims of the slave trade were predominantly members of as few as 50 ethnic groups. This data, along with the tracing of blacks' ancestry through DNA tests, is giving us fuller understanding of the identities of both the victims and the facilitators of the African slave trade. For many African Americans, these facts can be difficult to accept. Excuses run the gamut. From Africans didn't know how harsh slavery in America was, and slavery in Africa was, by comparison, humane, or in bizarre version, the devil made them do it. Africans were driven to this only by the unprecedented profits offered by greedy European countries. That's another excuse. But the sad truth is that the conquest and capture of Africans and their sale to Europeans was one of the main sources of foreign exchange for several African kingdoms for a very long time. They've been doing this. This ain't no, let me just take a break. Understand, they've been doing this. This ain't nothing that just happened. This ain't nothing that happened for a little while, right? And then it was over with and it was just a dirty stain. No. You really help. When you think about it, you taught the Europeans how to do it. See, you already had networks set up. Arabs and Africans, y'all all had networks set up where you were selling people. And so the British came in and the white people came in from all these different countries, United States, all this, and they made it worse. But y'all was already doing this. You was selling your own people. And when we tried to say, you selling your own people, you be like, pan-africanism, power to the people. What? What? Now, I'm going to get back to the article. I'm not finished reading from the article. But we have to understand that point. We have to understand that point. Now, let me continue for a couple more paragraphs. Just so, I mean, everybody, we can all act crazy if we want to. I keep moving this little thing around. Those of you who just came in, please find this article and read along with me. So, but the sad truth is that the conquest, okay. Here we go. But the sad truth is that the conquest and capture of Africans and their sale to Europeans was one of the main sources. Like we said, for capital. Slaves were the main export of the Kingdom of the Congo. The main export. Now understand the previous article, she said that he was selling slaves and palm oil and all that kind of stuff. Well, immediately I call BS on that, because if you were selling so much palm oil to America, palm oil will be what we eat now. It would be a mainstay of our diet. This wasn't no palm oil. Your daddy and your family and your family's family, all of y'all were in the flesh trade. Tell the truth and shame the devil. And that's why it's so normalized. That's why your own daddy said it's not a big deal, because it was normal to do. What does that tell me about your moral code and whether we should be family and we all the same and we all in this together? Based on what? Slaves were the main export of the Kingdom of the Congo. The Asante Empire in Ghana exported slaves and used the profit to import gold. Queen Njinga, if I got it wrong, this is what it is. The brilliant 17th century monarch of Ubundu waged wars of resistance against the Portuguese, but also conquered polities as far as 500 miles inland and sold her captives to the Portuguese. Some of y'all said in the comments, Yvette, what about the queen who fought? Well, she also sold slaves. When Njinga converted to Christianity, she sold African traditional religious leaders into slavery, claiming they had violated her new Christian precepts. That's who y'all looking up to? Did these Africans know how harsh slavery was in the New World? Actually, many elite Africans visited Europe in that era, and they did so on slave ships following the prevailing winds through the New World. For example, when Antonio Manuel, Congo's ambassador to the Vatican, went to Europe in 1604, he first stopped in Bahia, Brazil, where he arranged to free a countryman who had been wrongfully enslaved. So you knew how to free people, just not us. African monarchs also sent their children along these same routes to be educated in Europe. See, when you talk about Nigerians being educated in London, they have a long history of being educated in London and traveling. They've been doing that. They go on a slave ship. You slaves over there, they done sold you off, but we still gonna go to go school in London. We don't have no moral code. We don't see you as a brother or a sister. If not, we wouldn't let these people put you in chains. And there were thousands of former slaves who returned to settle in Liberia and Sierra Leone. The Middle Passage, in other words, was sometimes a two-way street. Under these circumstances, it is difficult to claim that Africans were ignorant or innocent. Given this remarkable messy history, the problem with reparations may not be so much whether they are a good idea or deciding who should get them. The larger question just might be from whom they should be extracted. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you is that what I have been saying to you is nothing new, and it is nothing different, and it is nothing radical, and it is nothing that has not been proven. It's none of that. It's none of that. Like, this is, I want to show you something. Like, this is what your people, my people, this is our people right here. These chains and all this stuff, and it's dehumanizing everything we hate about slavery, everything that makes us cry about slavery. This is what it looks like, right? They and these Africans invite us back and say, come look at where your people were held. So now you make money off me doing tourism over there. So you want me to come back and see it? Like, this is what happened to us. This is what was done to us. And absolutely, America owes us reparations. But absolutely, there's somebody else who not only owes us reparations, but you owe us the ability to keep what we have in this country. See, let me tell you what you can't do. You cannot sell my people into slavery and then ride over here on the wings of affirmative action and get what was designed for the people who you sold into slavery. You cannot do that. You should never have been allowed to do that. You should always have been, if you came, have been forced to mark other on your application for college or for a job. You cannot mark African American or what should have been American black. You are not allowed to mark that. That is forbidden. And how do you sell me and my people, then you get to come over here and say, well, we all the same. You know good and well. See, because the thing that we don't understand is that we're a lost tribe. American Black DOS, we're a lost tribe. And people are taking advantage of our lostness. See, since we're lost and we were cut off from everything, we don't understand that these people know exactly what their people did. When you can trace your lineage back generation after generation after generation and it hasn't been moved, you know exactly what your people did. But you just hiding it from us because you don't want us to be up on this game. But we own it now. We understand exactly what happened. And we understand what's ours. And we understand what is our due. And we understand what you should not have access to. We understand all of that very, very well. Now let me show you something. You notice in that thing, they mentioned something very important. They mentioned this tribe, right? They mentioned this tribe. They mentioned this tribe. Now understand, we don't really have tribes no more. We got single moms. We got the men in jail. We got all of that in our community. We got all this failure that we were sold into when America not only bought us, but decided to put us in this. That's what we working with. But you got your father and your umbilical cord was buried, and then you get to come over here and steal from us. Okay, all right. Well, let me just say something. Let me just put one other thing. Do you all remember? And this was in the article. They talked about the Dahomey tribe. And they talked about Benin and how that tribe guarded like the king in Benin, who was a slave trader. And here's what I asked a long time ago. During the whole Black Panther phenomenon, I asked if we were the vibranium, because understand how sick this is. I want you to really understand how sick this is. I want you to look at the women on the left side of your screen who were guarding slave traders. The women on the right side of your screen were in Black Panther, and were built based off this women. That's who they created them based on. They created these women warriors based on the people who sold your people into slavery. And you went to the movies and enjoyed it. You went to the movies and talked about how strong these women were and how wonderful these women were. And oh my God, these Amazonian black women with the bald heads. And you didn't realize that they were based off the women who sold our people into slavery. Understand, this is a scam. This is a scam. I said this before. We are on the losing end of a long con. We are on the losing end of a long con. Understand that. The only king in Africa who was protected by a group of women was the Benin king. So you can't even tell me, well, maybe it was another king somewhere who was protected by these bald-headed women or whatever, or any group of women. No, it was only Benin. They fed you back. They fed you back your African slave traders. They fed you back. They had you in the theater. Hold on. They had you in the theater cheering for these women who the whole stick sold us into slavery. Like most of my, when you look at my DNA, it comes back, most of my African comes back Benin. And you have to understand, it wasn't like there was a little slave trading going on. No, the Benin king was a slave trader, and slaves were his product. This let me tell you, this is a lie. And this is the lie of the woman who wrote the New Yorker article. Well, you know, this was just my grandfather, and it was just him, and we pray about it. Because they know we love forgiveness, and we just going to pray about it, and we all got together, and we prayed real hard to get the curse off our family. So they want us to be like, oh, they cursed. They already suffering. No, listen, spare me your voodoo hoodoo craziness. Okay? But that's what you're trying to traffic on. But see, they got us out here celebrating a culture that's not ours, celebrating the people who sold us into slavery. That's why I was fuming after the Black Panther movie. Right? When you all saw me do the video, I did the video because I understood what it meant. I understood what it was signaling. And I understood that we were elevating something that was not us. I understood that we were elevating not only something that was not us, we were elevating the thing that made us marginalized in this country. That's what they were. See, listen, you have ports all up and down West Africa, right? There's no way to have those many ports and to export that many people. It's anywhere. Let me see. I have a quote here of some data that it was between, I think it was 10 and 28 million. But there's no way to push that many people. There's no way to do that unless that's what you do. That's your business. Your business want palm oil. Your business ain't coconuts. Your business ain't whatever else you grow over there. Your business is flesh. And we were the flesh. So how do we have any kind of idea of sameness now? Like we're the same. Like we have something in common. I don't understand it. I don't understand why we were cheering these women. I wish somebody would let me know, because I'm here right now and I don't understand. These are the slave traders protectors. That's who we were cheering. Somebody's laughing real hard at this joke. You know, Wakanda. So when you look at it, I want you to stay with me here, right? So when you look at what Wakanda really was, there were no, fun black characters. No, they didn't even let Killmonger be as brilliant as be brilliant at all, and that's what he was supposed to be. This movie is kind of like an elevation of slave traders. That's what it is. That's what it is. And he was African. Even Killmonger, even our representative. He just understood us better because he'd had to live in America. And he had been forced to live. And he had been pissed off that he was forced to live an American black life. That's part of the pissed offness. But there was something that he did understand. There was something that he did understand that some people that many people do not understand. Or that I think we as a group kind of don't understand. Right? So when you talk about, and I'm going to get to it in just a second, but when you talk about Killmonger, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting, conversation to have, right? Because what we come to when we look at, I'm going to bring up an image just really quick. Just really, really quick. Because I think we have to, there's no other way to kind of understand it, because I have to bring it up and just, when we talk about Killmonger, I want you all to go back and I want you all to think of some of the criticism of Killmonger. Now, first of all, understand that there are no full American black DOS in this film. Killmonger's African. So there are no full black, but understand something about Killmonger that we tend not to understand. Understand something. I want you to understand something that's very interesting. Oh my God, there's so many. Understand something that's very interesting to what I'm saying. Killmonger was criticized for a lot of reasons. And I think we've had time to go back and revisit some of those reasons. Now, the first thing that Killmonger was criticized about was he was disrespectful, Yvette. He was disrespectful to the elders, Yvette. How can you support Killmonger if he was disrespectful to the elders? And my question is to you, whose elders? Whose elders? Because if you could go back in time, if you could really deal, if you had some vibranium, and I'm asking whether we were the vibranium as slaves, were we the special thing? Was slavery the special thing that Wakanda had to make it special, as opposed to a meteorite jumping out the air when you look at real life? Is that the metaphor here? But when you look at Killmonger, why should he have respected? Why should he have respected the elder who outcast him, who cast him out and benefited herself? What is there to respect about who she is? See, you have to understand something. When people say respect your elders, there's an idea of sameness. If somebody threw you back in the land and you were with a slave owning elder, would you respect her? Like that's the point I was just trying to make. What you have to understand is that respecting an elder is about, you respect that elder because that elder has kind of paved the way for you. So if you have a grandfather, grandmother, whatever, that person has helped build a life for you, and your parents built on top of that life, and the expectation is that you will build on top of that life. So you owe them something because of of their contribution, right? Their contribution not only to your life, but the community as a whole. If the elder has taken away from your life, and the elder has not only not made a contribution of your life, but robbed you of your birthright, please tell me why Killmonger should have respected this elder. What were you talking about? This idea of sameness, as everybody gets the same respect and esteem because they were lucky enough to grow old. No, there was always something built in it. There was an exchange that this elder built the way for me. This elder was here. This elder worked a job. Whatever they did. Like even here, you look at elders in the African American, American black community. What you see is that some of them, put their nose to the grind and work jobs and paved the way for us to like be good workers, whether at the postal service or whatever. Some of them were in the civil rights movement. Some of them did other stuff. Okay. And some of them don't deserve anything either. Because you keep saying you marched with King and you didn't. But understand what I'm saying. And even when they talk about why he killed a sacred plant, the sacred plant is for Black Panther and the next Black Panther. If what you're talking about is some kind of revolution, if what you're talking about is upending the status quo, if what you're talking about is ending this Wakanda stuff and spreading liberation worldwide because you have vibranium. I can't do pan-africanism. I don't have no vibranium. But if that's what Killmonger is talking about, why in the world would he be pro this plan? Why would he want this? Why would he want any of the traditions of Wakanda to remain when Wakanda ain't nothing? Wakanda was garbage. Understand that. They hid themselves from the world. The rest of the people all around the planet, American, Black, everybody suffering. You hide yourself and you living in the land of luxury. Understand that there was no reason for Killmonger to ever be respectful. And he understood something that you need to understand. Let me tell you something. People keep saying, well, Yvette, what about solidarity? There are limits to solidarity. And solidarity includes exclusion. See, everybody wants to talk solidarity, but nobody wants to do the work of solidarity. Because solidarity means everybody can't come. And when you do come, it has to be based on specifics. It has to be based on a specific, maybe you have a specific ideology. And your ideology matches my ideology. That's why it's so hard for people to say, Yvette, you were anti-Nigerian. No, I wasn't. I said that when I read the stuff, it said that there Nigerians who are descendants of slaves. I want the Nigerian descendants of slaves because I can create a real, meaningful solidarity with them because they understand. Or they're more likely to understand than the Igbo. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how this is so confusing and worrisome, and I just don't understand. And after saying all that, I just want to ask you a quick question. I mean, after saying all of that, and you seeing it from this lens, I just have a quick question for you. Is this your king? I'm just asking. Is this your king? This man in this African outfit, West African outfit, is this your king? He's not my king. Understand, it's an African monarch. He's not my king. He sold me. You can't sell me and be my king. You can't sell me and be my family. You can't be Black Panther, sell me into American oppression, leave me there, and then be my king. It don't work that way. Black Panther made it seem like there was no attachment, there was no obligation. Nothing owed to us for anything. And you made this your king. You made him your king, and y'all went around after making him your king, you went around looking like this. I dressed up to see Black Panther because I felt like royalty. Yeah, royalty sold your people. Royalty sold us here. You want to feel like the people who oppressed you? You want to feel like the people who sold you over here? Is that what you want to feel? No. Like at some point, grow up. At some point, grow up and we realize that we are our own tribe. At some point, grow up and realize we don't need nobody else. We just have to learn to negotiate from where we are. That's what has to happen. I don't see how that's so complicated. I don't. And let me just say something else. You know, I keep reading in the comments. Some of the comments are so stupid. I might bring a few of them up before the end of the show. Well, Yvette, that's just kind of anti-Nigerian. Even though I said what I said about, I want your slaves. I want your slave descendants. Don't send me your Igbo. I want your slave descendants, because the Igbo they sold me here. You can't come here and get affirmative action and sell me here. That's not how this works. So I don't even know how that gets translated into being anti-Nigerian. It really probably means you're Igbo, so I'm anti-you, and so you got a problem with it, right? I understand. I totally understand. So what I want to say, what I want to bring up, because we just got to clear the air. You talk about solidarity. The same person who wrote that article wrote this. Nigeria has chartered several planes to bring migrants back home, from Libya, right? So, you can bring people home, I suppose. The royalty, when you talk about, let me just put him up again. When you talk about this kind of royalty, understand that understand that this kind of royalty, the wealth that this built, the fact that the woman who wrote this thing was traveling around the world and all this stuff, understand that that's built on us. Understand that that's built on our slavery. The money that she got, that stays in the family, that's intergenerational wealth, that's intergenerational transfer. So all this African royalty, this royalty affluence, where you got family to live everywhere. Understand, we live in a first world country and we don't have family to live everywhere. We got American passports, people. I want you to understand this. This woman has a Nigerian passport and she's all over the world. Her family's all over the world. Understand that we're in a first world country and we don't have passports to be all over the world. We don't have the money to go with being here. But understand that she has a passport that allows her to, and her family, well, my uncle was in Johannesburg, and my cousin was in Atlanta, and I had another cousin who was in South Africa, and we all got on the phone together, you understand. She probably has a British accent. And so what you have is understanding that, like, we're supposed to have that, and we don't have that. Because they sold us, and they used the money off this flesh trade to do it. The article was very clear. If you haven't read it, please take the time to go look at it. And please take the time to look at something else. We got a lot to look at. We got to look at the Igbo slave trade, y'all it's just let me just put this up. Hold on a second. Let me just put this up. I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what we're doing as African Americans. As American blacks. Don't include African in my name. Y'all Africans do y'all own thing, and that's fine. But don't include my name in that. Now I want you to look at this. The Igbo connection for Virginia and Virginia descendants, right? Just take a look at it, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper, as we always do. We always go a little bit deeper, but just take a quick little peruse of it. And then we're going to go into that, and I'm going to show you why I'm focused on Nigerians right now. Because I dealt with the Congo a little bit last episode, but I'm going to show you something. Now you've looked at that. The Igbo presence in the USA, and especially in Virginia, the Igbo presence in the USA, and especially in Virginia, it's been known for a longer time already, at least since 1969, that Bight of Biafra, the region where Igbo captives were shipped from to the Americas, was the chief supplier of slave imports to Virginia. It would be futile on my part to even attempt to provide a range of summary. So what we're seeing is that it's been this way for a while. The history is clear. The history is clear on West Africans, Igbo, and how that built your royalty. The royalty you want me to celebrate in terms of we come from kings and queens was built on selling me. So y'all going around talking about we come from kings and queens, but that was built on selling me and my people into slavery. And then we come here and say we don't know. We come from kings and queens. I know. They sold us though. Is that who you're aligning with? They sold us to Europeans. Wasn't no palm oil. They sold us. Flesh trade. Okay. So why am I focusing so much on Nigerians? Well, here you go. Jamaica, Haiti, Nigeria are top birthplaces for black immigrants in the U.S. So hold on again. So you get to come to my country and you know, I know what Purple Lipstick said about this being a transient country. And somebody should have checked her right then, because this is my country. And my ancestors built this with free labor. And you sent me here. This is not a transient country. This is my country. You would be so offended if I went to Nigeria and called your third world country a transient country. I would never do that. I don't even usually call it third world because I understand it was plundered. I don't even do that. But since you want to take the gloves off and say it's not my country, let's go then, boo. We can both do it. We can both go there. Look, you all, third most after Jamaica and Haiti, you all are here the most. You are flying in, like I said, you are flying into America on the wings of affirmative action. Sell me here, then fly in here on the wings of affirmative action, then claim we're the same, then tell me it's not my country, and you think I'm crazy for having a problem with you? You really are showing yourself. You really are showing yourself. And then the other thing is, we have to be very honest. Not only are you not apologizing, but let's look at one other chart before we go on. Because I like to focus on data. So we know you are from the elite for the most part, because it says overall 28% of black immigrants have a college degree, right? But go down to Nigeria. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. Look at Nigeria. 60% of the Nigerians who come here have a college degree. That's how I know the people that are being sent over here are not descendants of like regular people. They're not descendants of the poor people in Nigeria. Y'all sending the elite over here, and the elite are coming over here and saying, I'm just like you. Look, the U.S. population, 31% got a college degree. Y'all sending black people over here that look like me and haven't gone through mass incarceration, haven't gone through slavery, all of that stuff. Y'all send them people over here to compete against me. And they're the people who sent me over here and put me in this oppression. None of this stuff makes sense for me. See, when the math don't make sense, I have to say something. And the math don't make sense. African Americans have 18.7% college degrees. That's the percentage of our population that got college degrees. 18.7%. Nigerians are 60%. You know, understand that your education as a Nigerian who comes over here with a college degree is slave wealth. Your education as a Nigerian who comes over here with a college degree is slave wealth. You're coming over here competing against me with your slave wealth. How is that fair for my people? It's not. We're in first world. Like, you have to understand. We're in first world country. We are American blacks, and we only have 18% of us who have a college degree. That's because of But you have 60%. Yeah, because it's you still got your slave money. But you want to come over here and be like, yeah, Yvette, it's just the white man. It ain't have nothing to do with us. You a lie. Like, I don't know why nobody called you a lie a long time ago. You lying. That's not true. It had everything to do with you. It had everything to do with my people. It had everything to do with why you can now live off that slave wealth, and I have to eat the failure off that slave wealth. And not only that, then you will come over here and tell white people, yeah, you're right. They don't really need reparations. They just don't work hard enough. I'm different from them. I'm not like them. I'm more like you. We had slaves too. As a matter of fact, we sold you these slaves. We on the same team. Just don't tell the black people. Don't tell these American blacks. Tired of y'all. I'm tired of y'all. But see, you really just should have left me alone. I wouldn't even went there as much as I go there tonight. Let's talk about how y'all won't even apologize. Let's talk about that. You want to talk about everything I should do, everything Yvette Carnell should do. Well, Yvette, you should X, Y, and Z. And Yvette, you don't know X, Y, Z. And Yvette, okay, but let's talk about how you all don't even want to apologize. You all don't even want to apologize for what you did. The history is clear. The history is clear. You all were poor. You Nigerians and West Africans were poor. You had nothing. And in order to have something, you sold your own people. And we are the own people you sold. And you want us to think that we the same. No, absolutely not. You don't get to be the same with me and come here and get what I got after you sold me. I'm so sorry. But African chiefs urged to apologize for slave trade. Now let's just read this quote, shall we? This is from The Guardian. And it says, I interviewed a chief who acknowledged there was collaboration and that without that involvement, we wouldn't have seen human trafficking on an industrial scale. Said Bonsu, the co-founder of digital station Colorful Radio. An apology in Nigeria might be helpful. Because the chiefs did some terrible things and abetted a major crime. Here's the second one. In view, and this is all from the Guardian article, in view of the fact that the Americans and Europe have accepted the cruelty of their roles and have forcefully apologized, it will be logical, reasonable, and humbling if African traditional rulers can accept blame and formally apologize to the descendants of victims of their collaborative and exploitative slave trade. Okay, let's do another one. The Civil Rights Congress of Nigeria has written to tribal chiefs saying, we cannot continue to blame white men as Africans, particularly traditional rulers, are not blameless. Okay. In 1998, the president of Uganda told an audience, including Bill Clinton, African chiefs were the ones waging war on each other and capturing their own people and selling them. If anyone should apologize, it should be African chiefs. We still have those traitors here today. I think everybody should apologize. The people who sold the slaves and the people who bought the slaves. And if you are from, if you sold slaves, like, you don't get to come here and claim anything. I'm sorry. It's just you don't get to come here and claim. You don't get to come here and claim black. How you do that? Wait, what they do that at? See, you don't get to be me. It's a fraud. And it's a fraud that's been perpetrated for such a long time. I couldn't even, that Henry Louis Gates article, I had such a hard time finding it. It's like it's buried in Google. Right? And I have a question. I just have a question for Nigeria. Like, where's my oil money? Somebody said, well, Benin don't have money right now. Nigeria got rich in oil. Where's my oil money? See, because look, when you look at this chart, look at the Nigerians who are coming. When you black immigrants in general, but Nigerians have the college. You saw the chart about how they have the most college degrees and everything. So you are benefiting. Where's my benefit? See, the thing is, black people, and when I say black, I mean my American black DOS. Politics is about exchange. It's not about love. It's not about melanin. It's about exchange. So this is a one-way street. You get to come here and extract from what we built in terms of our affirmative action, in terms of the civil rights movement, in terms of us eating the bottom. You get to extract, but you're not giving anything. So I'm just saying, where's my oil money? Or where's something? You're going to have to give something. As a matter of fact, I would put a moratorium on all Nigerian immigration until I have an official apology from the Nigerian government. And as part of that, I want my oil money. If you want to come here, I need some oil money for American Black DOS. I need my oil money. I just need it. You got oil money. You running around holding hands with the president of Chevron, Exxon, or whatever you're doing. Hold my hand. How about that? And then, even when we do that, I don't want your Igbo. I just want your descendants of slaves. Give me your Nigerian descendants of slaves. Give me people who I can do politics with, because that's the hard work of politics, is having the same ideology or a similar ideology. They can understand where I'm coming from. Your slave traders are white people. I don't need any more affluent white people. Like, I mean, in terms of, like, I don't mean white in terms of color. I mean people who oppress. I don't need any people who are oppressed-minded. If you are oppressing the descendants of slaves in Nigeria, I don't need you here. I want the Nigerians who were slaves and who have been treated badly there to come here, because I can forge some kind of political alliance with them because they understand. You don't understand and you don't care. See, understand something. You have to understand something. And I want to make this very clear, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I want you to think about that article. You remember the article very well. From the New Yorker article, I want you to think about it. And you remember what the woman said. Let me put it back up, just so we're clear. You remember what she said. She said that when she talked about her grandfather, her great-grandfather who sold the slaves, she said the chains that the slaves used, right, that were used on the slaves were passed down. She said that her father showed no remorse for his slave trading grandfather. She said that it took courage to be, he told her it took courage to be a slave catcher and slave trader. Now, I want to show you something. This makes her father worse than a lot of white people in this country. If you even go, white people will show remorse, right? Even Confederate white people, you know what they'll say? People who fly the Confederate flag, they'll tell you, well, most of the Southerners who fought the Northern aggression didn't own slaves, so you can't use slavery. They full of crap, right? But they know enough to distance themselves from slavery. They know enough that slavery is wrong to kind of push back and distance themselves. They have enough of a moral standard to understand that this thing is wrong, and I have to find a way to distance myself from it. But if you have a father who tells you basically that he's proud of his slave catching grandfather and your slave catching and trading great grandfather, I want to show you and help you understand what that means about the moral core. And there's a clip that I'm going to show you which really goes to the heart of, like, this is a problem in the sense of you want to have solidarity with a people who show less remorse than American white people. I'm going to show you a clip. It's about 4 minutes long, so bear with me. But I want to show you this clip, and I want you to try to figure out how we can have solidarity with people who show no remorse when we even have white people in this country who are like, this was wrong. I'm going to show you this clip from Slavery by Another Name, and we're going to come back in 4 minutes, and we'll get back to it.
I grew up in Monticello, Georgia, which is a small town about 90 miles south of Atlanta. My paternal grandmother was the daughter of John S. Williams. He died long before I was born. But I heard from my uncles, from my father, from people who knew him that he was a wonderful man. He was well respected in the community.
In 1921, almost 18 years after the peonage trials, federal investigators visited the Williams farm to follow up on reports that he was holding peons.
There's a group of black men out in the field. The men are obviously terrified, unwilling to say almost anything. They're emaciated. They clearly have been terribly abused. John Williams suddenly appears.
He pleads that he didn't know this was against the law, that he'll do better. His intentions were good, very apologetic to these federal officials, and they leave. And he doesn't know what they're going to do. He knows they found evidence that he was holding these people in slavery. He talks to his foreman, Clyde Manning, and says, as the court transcript said, we've got to do away with these boys.
The family story was that he had worked prisoners on his farm, that they were hardened criminals and they had been put in the penitentiary for a long time. And one night, a lot of the prisoners tried to escape. And he, along with other farmers who were working these men, tracked them down and in the process of recapturing them, killed some of them. Then sometime later, the story came to light for me. It was, of course, totally different from the story that I had heard.
Williams and Manning, the black foreman, systematically hunted and murdered 11 black workers. Some were bludgeoned. Others were weighted down with chains and forced into a nearby river. Another was made to dig his own grave.
They did it in the most horrific ways that you can imagine that I really can't talk about. I just get so emotional when I think about not just the fact that these men were murdered, but the cruelty with which it was carried out. That's what's hardest for me to imagine and hardest to accept.
And it came to light only because a little boy was fishing down by the creek where they'd thrown some of the bodies, and one of the bodies came up.
In the spring of 1921, Williams and Manning each faced an all-white jury in a Georgia state court. Both were found guilty and given life sentences. Within a decade, both had died in prison. Williams was the first Southern white man since 1877 to be indicted for the first-degree murder of an African American. It would not happen again until 1966.
Black people, understand something. Like, whether I see y'all in the thing talking about save your white tears, but at least she's crying. At least she understands, like, that this was wrong, right? At least there's some type of understanding that like, what my ancestor did was awful. Understand that if you read the New Yorker article, she says that her daddy said that what happened was courageous. It took a lot of courage to be a slave trader, and no, he's not ashamed. Now, what you just saw was from PBS Slavery by Another Name. So you can go check that out. It's on YouTube. But understand that, like, her African father is showing less remorse than American whites. Like this white woman who was just like, I was crying. And even if she, I don't know whether she was, I'm not getting into whether she was sincere or not, but she knew enough to know that this is something that I should feel bad about. This Nigerian woman, that her father does not know enough or does not care enough to even feel bad about what happened to me or you or our families. But you want to consider them family. And even when you talk about college, I brought up this chart just a second ago about who goes the college. Even when you look at that number of U.S. And even when I tell you, like, the percentage of us, understand that our percentages now include their percentages. So what happens is they mask our failure. So I would say to you, well, 17-18% of black people go to college. Probably far less than that. It's probably like 12% once you take the black immigrants out. When you look at black people who have a college degree, it's probably far less than that when you take the black immigrants out. Like, you mask my failure. Like, I can't really show white people what happened to me because you're here. And the group of you who are here are here. I didn't bring in any descendants of slaves from Nigeria. I brought y'all in. I didn't know that y'all were different because you were playing on me. Y'all even on the individual level, we've all been played on. They've been playing a game with us for a very long time. For a very long time. And that's what happens. I think at a certain point, as black people, American black DOS, we have to understand something that seems to be very difficult for us to understand, that not everyone is in this for us. Right? That not everyone cares about what happens to us. Now let me pull this up. Let me just show you what her father said. Let's just read this again and compare this to the white woman. Compare what her father says about the slave trading great grandfather and what the white woman said. She says, "Are you not ashamed of what he did? I can never be ashamed of him," he said, irritated. "Why should I be? His business was legitimate at the time. He was respected by everyone around. My father is a lawyer and a human rights activist who has spent much of his life challenging government abuses in Southeast Nigeria. He sometimes had to flee our home to avoid being arrested, but his pride in his family was unwavering. Not everyone could summon the courage to be a slave trader," he said. "You had to have some boldness in you." Understand that this dude is still celebrating. Whereas this white woman is saying, like, "I know it's messed up, I'm really sad about it." This dude is still celebrating slave trading. You know why? Because it built the wealth of his family. The life he has to be an attorney and go to law school and make and have servants in his house. I know you got servants in your house. It was made possible by slave trading. That's what made it possible. And I think we have to understand that. We have to understand that these people are not us. It doesn't make you necessarily, I mean, you're not a part of our tribe. I don't know. I don't really know what to tell you. I don't really know what to say to you. I don't even know if I should say anything to you. But like, we're a very specific tribe, and you're not part of it, because you understand that. When I see y'all put up stuff online, I watch you. You understand Igbo, West Africa. You don't say black people. Nobody says that but us. Nobody's that crazy but us. And so people are taking advantage of our lostness. So I'm going to go to break. I want to hear it. Listen, this is a show. This is a first come, first serve show. I don't have no technician or nobody to do anything. If you believe in pan-africanism and you want to have a debate, listen, you know what I'll say? If you're a regular caller, if you call in often, just kind of stick off the lines right now and let the people who want to tell me how wonderful pan-africanism or how wonderful this is for me or whatever you want to debate, let you call in. Let's see what you have to say. I'm going to give me like 3 minutes as usual, and we're going to get it in and we're going to have the conversation. All right? What's going on, family? I am about to go to the calls. So I'm about to go to the calls and see what everybody has to say. Everybody has an opinion. So I want to hear them. And, you know, if you got a different opinion, I'm going to try to make these calls quick so callers kind of get to the point and move on, because I don't want people saying, well, Yvette, I was going to call and I was going to set her straight, but she didn't pick up my call like I have a crystal ball. So I just want to get to everybody as soon as I can, so that I can kind of move people in and out, so that as many people as I can, it's, you know, the show is only so long, but as many people as I can have an opportunity to have their voice. I am going to 336. 336, I'm coming to you first. What's your name? Where you calling from, and what's on your mind?
Hey, I'm calling from North Carolina.
What's going on?
Home of the working poor black.
What's up? What's going on? What's on your mind?
Well, I want to come and let you know about this. I want to make a point. I was telling my friend that, you know, hey, you shouldn't trust Africans. You know, they're not like us. They don't think like us. They have their own ideas. And she was just, oh, no, they good. My friend Anita, she's real good and everything. She's great. I do her hair for her. I said, watch her. They're not friends no more. She finally let herself came out and told the truth. She was like, you black Africans, you black African Americans, y'all not like us. Y'all get everything for free. Y'all get to sit around and collect a check. Back in my hometown, we don't collect checks. We have to work. Y'all just lazy. Y'all don't like to work and do nothing but sit around and expect people to hand you stuff. We got to come here and work hard. It costs me thousands of dollars to get here, and y'all can just sit around here, and I have to work my butt off. And I was just like, told you.
But here's the thing, Carl. Let me just say this. How can you say that? You wouldn't be here if it was not for our work. Like, understand that, like, there's no African that would be in this country were it not for the movements of American black DOS in this country. And it doesn't start and end with the civil rights movement. It goes a long way back. If you know the history, we're talking about all the way back to the Civil Rights Act of, like, it was in the 1800s. Then you come, like, this has been a progression of a long time. So it's just like, how disrespectful can you be? Like, you wouldn't even be here if we hadn't fought for what we fought for. Like, it's so unappreciative for somebody to say that. Like, but yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I used to sit back and listen to them talk. She had houses. She had other Africans. They started buying houses, renting them out. They had shops, businesses. They was doing big things. I think she was from Ghana or either Nigeria. But I said, see them? They don't respect or appreciate nothing about us. We just nothing in them. And they stopped being friends, but I'm glad they did. But I just want to point that out because I live in North Carolina, and there's lots of Africans that come here. We got Mexicans too, but tons of Africans, and they stay in the pockets of the kind of medium to small size cities, and they're taking up all medical jobs, all technical jobs. You go to any hospital, they're in there doing respiratory therapy, physical therapy. All the hair shops, they rolling in the dough now, and everybody's just like, oh, we from Africa, they just like us. I'm like, nah, they ain't nothing like us. I'm trying to wake some of them up though. Yeah, but that's about it. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. See. Here's the thing. Just like us has to mean something more than like we got the same skin, right? Like, people love to say they just like us, but like, well, do y'all have the same ideology? Y'all have the same political ideology? I don't even know what their politics is. So you don't know whether they're leftist or liberal or conservative, because I come across a lot of conservative, super capitalist Africans. So you don't even know whether they're conservative or super capitalist or right wing, and you don't have no idea, right? You just basing everything off melanin. I understand that because we got a lot of people going around even now talking about melanin and everybody the gift of, and we got no. So when you talk about sameness, when you talk about the thing that should kind of bind us with people, I don't have no problem with any kind of group. But what I need is for if we're going to have any kind of solidarity, it has to be based on, like, we got to have the same politics. You can't can't be running around. See, you can't be running around as a conservative. And like, I know you're conservative because the people who you sent here are the ones who sold slaves. You didn't send me your poor descendants of slaves. You sent me people who schooled in London. So of course we're not going to have the same politics. Send me a different Nigerian. You're the wrong one. I want to return this one and get the other one. I don't want this one. Do I have a no postage shipping free if I return? No, send me the other ones. I don't want these ones. These ones don't go with my politics. And that's what we're learning. So I'm going to 832. 832, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
My name's Joaquin Alfaro. I'm a Hispanic from Texas. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Okay, what's going on? You said Joaquin?
Yeah, Joaquin.
Okay, what's going on? What's on your mind?
No, I was just calling, and I was wondering why black people are, like, fighting for illegal immigrants from Mexico to come here illegally when it's fighting against their own interests. When illegals come here, they're taking jobs away from Hispanics and black people. You know, we're at the bottom, and we have to compete against them. And I want to know, why are the black leaders like Maxine Waters, Camilla Harris, and Cory Booker saying, "Oh, we got to think about the children and the mothers separating"? When illegals come here, they're competing against us. We're the Americans. You know, we're the ones that have a right to get the jobs, or, you know, we're Americans. We're the ones. We shouldn't give our rights to illegals. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate it. I'm not going to talk too much on that because this is not the Mexican show. We had the Mexican show. We're going to do another Mexican show. I'm sure we'll do a Mexican show. But this is not that show. And we don't fight for that here. You all know we don't fight for that here. We fight. We straight up DOS. And we understand our tribe. That's not what we do. So I appreciate you calling in, Joaquin. It's just not the show for the Mexican talk. But we're going to have another show about the immigrants. We had another show about the migration. You just might have missed that show. And that's all right. We just going to keep it moving. 214, I'm coming to you. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Elliot Thomas. I'm calling from Plano, Texas. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you pretty good.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that, Yvette. And remind me to subscribe to the newsletter, man, so I can spend my little $4 a month and just pitch in.
$2. Ain't $4, it's $2.
Okay. $2. But I agree with most of it, but at the same time, I got a question for you. So just to give you a little background, now I'm going to be concise and to the point so others can get in. But it's a book that a Nigerian brother from my job told me to read. And it's called The Life of Oladuwa Ikwano.
What?
And just to spell the name out for the listeners, is OLAU, D as in dog, AH, and then his last name is EQUIANO. Now, his life consisted of an African form of slavery, which was more servitude. And the time that he spent during his servitude, they treated him like family. They fed this man. Now, this is all before colonialism. They fed this man. They treated him like family. They gave him skills, and they granted his freedom. So, of course, when he was given to Europeans in order to be sold, he was under the impression that it would be servitude. Now, we all know, as DOS and prisoners of war, because some of us were prisoners of war in this very country, such as John Horst, that was funded by the people of Haiti, but that's another story. He suffered a whole nother type of slave. It was a whole nother form of slavery. This was chattel slavery. This was something completely different. So my question to you is, is it the form of slavery and the ideology from being in Africa and being in the Americas different, or seeing as though white folks over here in the Americas treated black folks a certain way, so we have a thought process that's different from Africans in Africa that were taught how to be slave owners and traders. So generations down the line, that's why that particular father in that article felt the way he felt. He was just cold-blooded. But when you come over here and you talk to us like that, it's like, oh no, you know, we went through Jim Crow, we went through this, we went through segregation, we went through that. So is it a difference from the way that people were taught from continent to continent or not?
Well, I think the Gates article kind of dealt with that. What the Gates article said was, listen, these people, even back then, these Africans schooled in Europe. They rode on slave ships to get to where they had to go, right? So they knew what we were going to suffer through. They just didn't care. They were just that cold-blooded. They were like, it is what it is. It wasn't a case they didn't know. They were on slave. Like, you had ports. You had these kids. They talked about in the article, the kids of African chiefs and stuff schooled in Europe, right? They have a tradition of schooling in Europe. Like the relationship of these African tribesmen and these African elite to Europe is something that we should really investigate. Because they're on the same page. They're on the same page in their elevation and our subjugation. And I would really like to investigate that. But what it shows is that if you ride on if you schooled in Europe and stuff, and you have access to the same information. You rode on slave ships. They said they rode on slave ships, right? Like these Africans and chiefs and sons of they rode on slave ships to get where they got to go or whatever. So they saw the inhumanity, but they just didn't care. Like, I don't think we understand how much they just don't care. That's why they sold you in the first place. They don't care. They understood what they were selling you into, and they didn't give a damn. That's what we have to come to terms with.
Right, and I mean, and this has to be after colonialism of the mind, because, and I've heard Henry Louis Gates, and it's some things that he says, oh, okay, but what year was this? What particular era was this in that continent? Was this after, the First, Second, or Third Punic War? Was this after, the Golden Age, the Bronze Age? Like, he doesn't put it in the context and lay it out for us. So it's been plenty of wars and plenty of, such as the Persians that came in, the Greeks that came in, the Romans that went into the continent. Of course, Hannibal fought Rome for a good 10, 15 years before they got into Northern Africa, which is why it's more Arabs and people from China than Africa than anything. So what I'm looking for is just some dates where Henry Louis Gates tries to say, because I've seen his special where he immediately starts at slavery, and he doesn't go beyond that or prior to that. So what I'm asking in a nutshell is that, how come there aren't any dates to show?
Well, I would challenge you to go to the pages and read the works of the what he referred you to were the scholars who have the information, right? There were like 3 scholars mentioned in that article. So what I would challenge you to do is go to those scholars, go to the work that they've done, the pages that they put up, or the books that they've written, the scholarship they've done, and just see. Just see the time frame in which they're talking about. But this spans centuries. Understand, one of the things that you have to understand, that when he talks about, when you talk about they were riding on slave ships, understand what you see with the month on a slave ship. Understand the kind of suffering you see, and you know that, and you come back home and you don't give a damn. And then you don't have a moral core. You don't have any affinity. You're just like white people. That's why I said these people who did this are white people. There's no way for me to call you black, because black is about being oppressed. Black is about suffering. Black is about not having agency. Black is about being on the bottom. The people who did this aren't black. So there's a set of Nigerians who we need to stop seeing as black. These people are, and the West African coast, they're white.
And I agree with that 100%. And just like I had to educate the brother from my job, look, you have a home that you can go to and not have to suffer through this. Me being black, this is not just a title. This is a lifestyle. And he had to know that straight up and up front. But last thing before I go, he let me know that, of course, his mother is a professor. His father is an architect.
Of course.
And they said they have a lottery for those people who are more fortunate than others. So the slaves and the descendants of slaves that you're looking for in that continent, they don't even qualify or have enough money for the lottery. So they randomly pick 10 to 20 families that qualify economically in order to come over here, and they school them on how to act and what to do and how to succeed.
Oh.
So the people that you're looking for that are descendants of slaves and that do understand us and that actually want to advocate reparations for us, they will never get to see the light of day. And the brother that I was talking to, he was a lottery winner.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate that. That's who I want to see, though. I want to see that. I want to see the people who are slaves in Nigeria or descendants of slaves. I can't do anything with African white people. I can have solidarity with the other ones. Y'all, I think this is Tone. What's up, 310?
Yeah, what up, man? I didn't plan on really calling in. Last dude made me call in. You know, I gotta ask the question, what book you give him to read? All right, kick that book back in his face. Let me say this to you. Like, think about it. Like, what book did you give him to read? He's giving you a book to read about Nigeria. I just think, like, when we start off, I don't know that, brother, but I just know the data on African Americans is daunting. We talked about what the middle black families were, and we see it in L.A. I mean, the Nigerians are here. We see the middle Nigerian family work north of $100,000, and the middle black family work $3,000 hard, $200 liquid, everything they have in L.A. And I just feel like I started looking at this thing, and we started looking through the South and the Midwest where blacks are concentrated. You forget how we're not very well educated and we don't travel. You know, you got people calling that ain't never been to Africa. And understand, I'm talking about a continent. You can go anywhere you want on that continent, and at least they never been there. And like for me, it really is interesting to hear the difference. Because he starts off saying, it's worse than that you got a home to go to. No, it's worse than that. He told us here. That's why his people is who they are.
Yep.
Like, when do we accept this, like, the reality of that they know that they sold slaves? That this was the institution. This was the ball game. Let me put it in context. If I put a ship out there and I fill it up with gold, how heavy is it? Then when it gets to the Americas, what can they do with that gold? Sit it on land? If I got a ship and I can fill it up with slaves, and then when they get to the Americas, they can produce more slaves, that they can produce a tobacco or cotton or whatever you need, what you think is more valuable? The slaves were worth more than everything in America.
Yeah.
To think that the Nigerians, the Beninans, the homies didn't massively trade in slaves is to be ignorant to every fact that you're seeing.
Yeah, that's true.
We come back to an article about the Benin. 4 million people, and over the course of 200 years, they sold over 3 million slaves. What do you think that country looked like? Think about it for a second. Slavery was everywhere. It was everywhere. See, I just think that when I heard the brother talk, I know we want to find a nice place so Black Panther makes sense. Shit don't make no sense. We come back to that big ass tree that they had in the middle. That's the same tree on that lady from the New Yorker's family land. We come back to the context of this man that I just called before, trying to rationalize. It's not your job to rationalize their slavery. Understand that they have chains that they were using. They had chains they were using, and they were kidnapping people. That's not the form of slavery that we described in Africa. We described initially, and she said this, a form that is from punishment and it's a debt owed. Well, then you walking around praying you just finish up your debt based on honesty.
Ooh.
Well, I moved to kidnapping you. That means my family that kidnapped you is the thief. And we know we should be in slavery. And we're going to make you wear a chain to make sure you don't run.
Yep.
And so, like, you start dealing with the reality of what does it take to bury a man alive with your great-grandfather. You start coming back to, and then pull that article, pull a piece of the image up with the family in it, with the family on it. You come back to it, and the lie in this New Yorker piece is to isolate this to the great-grandfather. This was not about the great-grandfather. This was a familial institution. This was a cultural institution. This was a coastal institution. Understand, this was a family that traded in slaves. I can't hear it no other way.
Yeah.
If you think that this grandfather, so instead of saying my great-grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader, it should say my family, the Nigerian slave traders.
Yeah.
And I believe in many ways what we start to see, what we start to not understand, is that when the first lady says that her friend was saying it's just like us, when you say just like us, you're essentially saying that you ain't going to get no reparations.
Yep.
The people that sold slaves ain't owe no reparations.
Nope.
We just the same. We just the same. I'm telling you right now, I don't know either of my grandpa. My parents had me at 16, 17. All this come from slavery. Jim Crow, being shut out. And y'all making me go to UCLA to compete with these Nigerians? I ain't having it. Y'all can keep playing around, asking me for solutions while I'm bringing a solution. I'm not playing no more with this whole game. The data is here. We laid it out. Now we come in. This show is the solution. You've never seen an African American do the show and show the courage that Yvette is showing tonight to do this show. If you have, then you show it to me. Lingo. I'm saying to you, we look at it in Gates' article that was somehow hidden. 90% of the slaves came from African traders. Understand that if you ride a boat, a wooden boat, off of Africa's coast, anywhere, you're going to be on that boat with them for a month, month and a half, maybe even 3 months. And then we hear black people come up and say, well, they didn't know what was going to happen. I don't think y'all understand how massive this institution was. Millions of slaves. We're talking about when you get to the coast, we all know what it is. I'll come back to it. I'm not going to hold it too long. But what I'm going to say is, we don't really want to be honest about the infrastructure that it took to trade millions of slaves before Google and the internet, before metal boats, and how each boat has so much wealth. We don't want to get honest about how the education rate that they have is where the wealth is. So when they come and say, well, we don't have no wealth, well, why 59% of y'all educated? Y'all come from the third world, developing nation.
Yep.
We had 20%, including y'all. If you take y'all out, we probably had 12. And 8 of that is probably the women. The men are probably like 4. So I'm talking about American DOS men in America. So you gonna tell me where's the wealth and I'm not rich? You are, by position, by relativity. I think for a lot of us, we went and seen this Black Panther movie 3 and 4 times, and wore these outfits and talked about royalty because we want to be in a world, and I'll leave it at this, where everybody can be king.
Ooh.
But for there to be a king in Africa, there's got to be 1,000 slaves. I'm going to leave it at that.
Ooh, thank you, Tone. I want y'all to sit on that. In order to be king, in Wakanda, there got to be 1,000 slaves. You don't understand. We don't understand. That we can't live how we supposed to live in a first world country. We built this country. And they live in that in a third world country. They live in, what did Lovey tell you? I didn't know anything about slavery. I thought everybody had a car and a driver. How does somebody come over here from Nigeria, Lovey, and you think we all the same? You think she's the same as you? She told you she had a car and a driver, and you didn't think to investigate what this was built off of? We didn't think to really ask, is she Igbo? Is there slavery anywhere in her family? Where is this wealth in a third world country come from? We don't, and why are we including her in our tribe? We all been there. I done it too. We all done it. done helped people, done stuff for people. I helped a Nigerian come tell me a long time ago. I said, I helped you out. Now I need something. He said, oh, God did that. You didn't do that, Yvette. God helped me. You didn't help me. Wait a minute. I helped you and did all that, and God helped you. I'm gonna tell you, we don't see. The thing is, when people, and I'm not even blaming an individual, when people come from that level of scarcity, where you routinely oppress black people, descendants of slaves, you routinely oppress your own black descendants of slaves. You ain't got no love for me. You think of me just like another slave. Well, I gotta think of you as just like another white person. And in your case, it's worse. It ain't even like a regular white person walking the street. You sold me. I'm going to 916. 916, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Bina in North California. I called in before.
What's going on, Bina? What's on your mind?
I want to thank you again for this clarification. I had a teacher. My teacher was Nigerian in the nursing program. And she was horrible to me. She was horrible. Even at the graduation, she told the people that I was the one that gave her the most trouble in my graduation.
Wow.
Then, before that happened, we were in class, and she was doing a slideshow or something. She threw a grape and hit me in the head with it.
What?
And I told my friend next to me, I said, she just hit me in the head with a grape. I was pissed. I didn't know what to do. And, I didn't want to do too much because I'm trying to stay in the nursing program and, get my little hustle on. Man, my friend said, you need to go to the office right now. I went there to the office, and they wrote her up for doing that. She told them that I was texting on the phone. That's why she did that, which I was. I was texting on the phone in the class, and I doing that, but what she did was out of order.
Yeah, but that's some. I'm gonna say, but let me say one thing, Carl. That's some third world stuff to do. Like that's not like people want to be what they want to be and say what they want to say, but we have to come to a point where we understand that like people do stuff differently in underdeveloped countries. And like that might be what you do in Nigeria. You hit a little Negro, you hit a little Nigerian. Like you don't do that here. We have different standards, and we don't really understand like what that means.
Not only that, she would go to sleep in the classroom. Nobody hit her in the head with a grape. She goes to sleep while she's supposed to be teaching. She was horrible, and she was saying a lot of things that I didn't understand. She said when she first came to America, she had moved to the ghetto in Oakland, and she said she noticed there was liquor stores everywhere, and her husband questioned why always on the corners and drinking alcohol, and they said they realized they had need, and they moved to Concord. They both bought a house. She's a master's nurse, and he's a doctor, pediatrician. She ended up being so greedy in the class. She threw a fake class in the college, saying she was teaching us how to do therapy. She didn't have a license. I didn't understand it. I didn't.
Oh.
She charged everybody $400 to take this fake class from her. And I was just about to give her my money. And come to find out, they had put me in the office to ask me how everything was going. And I told the dean of nursing that everything was fine. And she asked me what I was going to do for the summer. I said, well, Miss, the teacher is giving us a IV therapy class over the summer. She said, what? I said, yeah. She said, where's she doing it at? I said, she's supposed to do it here at the school. And come to find out, she got in trouble. The state called everybody in the class and everything. She took people money, did not even pay them back or anything. And she wasn't even supposed to be doing nothing like that.
Mm. Well, thank you, Carla. I appreciate your call. I'm trying to get you some call, but yeah, that's an interesting little conundrum that you found yourself in. You ain't hit me in the head with no grape. That's not how we discipline people. You're not going to just throw a grape and pop me. But anyway, I'm going to 256. 256, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, I love you so much.
Thank you.
A lot from your show. My name's Nicole.
What's up, Nicole?
I'm calling from Alabama. So I pretty much feel like, escapism and being delusional is just so common in the community. Because, like, I find myself getting into it with people on Facebook. Like, for instance, this one lady, she put, Black folks always want to remind or teach children about slavery, like this is where we came from. I don't think so. I think they should be reminded that there was a time when their ancestors built pyramids in extensive and complex cities, reminding someone of the time when they weren't shit is some colonizer shit. So I put, if you're a Black American, that's your lineage. You're a descendant of a slave. It is what it is. And I said, pretty much Black saying, we come from kings and queens is bullshit. That's like all white people saying, we come from presidents. Pretty much bringing up the point you make, like, how Africa's a big continent with 54 countries and everything. So her and this other chick, they debating me, talking about we do come from kings and queens. So me, I'm like, okay, well, name somebody. Like, seriously, what king and queen do you come from?
Yeah, what's your lineage? What's this?
Then the girl was like, "Oh, well, I was just saying in general."
No, I know in general. You know what you need to say, fam. You know what you need to say.
No, in general.
No, I know in general. But you know what you need to say. Say, like, in order to have a king or a queen, you have to have thousands of peasants. Like, and you probably came from the peasants.
Oh, that's what they said too. One of the women said, there must be peasants as well. And then that's when I brought up one of your charts. I was like, exactly. And Blacks at the bottom when it comes to wealth. Then she gonna say, well, yeah, that's in America, but in other places, Blacks have the largest accumulated wealth. I'm like, I'm not worried about them. Like, what?
And they don't. Yeah, that's BS. I'm gonna try to get through a bunch of calls. I appreciate you, calling. I'm gonna try to get through a bunch of people today. But I'm gonna speak on what you just said offline. Like, here's the thing. Like, y'all gonna have to, like, I understand. See, part of the thing is, like, we don't want to cause no waves. So we want to disagree and then disagree to disagree, and we just can't do that sometimes if everybody's kind of like sane. But, like, you gonna have to just start blocking these people. Like, you can't be that stupid and be on my Facebook. I'm sorry. It's just what it is. And I get to do that. I get to tell you that, like, yeah, you don't know enough to be interacting with me on my Facebook or interacting with my friends on my Facebook. You don't get to do that. Like, the thing is, the reason, like, so many of us are so lost and so stupid is because, like, none of the rest of us tell the other people that you're really lost and you're really stupid. We don't like to have that conversation, but it's necessary. So to my friend from Alabama on the phone, you gonna have to block her. You don't, like, I'm not gonna. And if she asks you why I blocked you, yeah, because you're not, like, your political outlook is not anchored in data. So I moved on and just walk away from her. Don't even leave her time to answer. Just say what you gotta say and pew, just go. You don't owe her a conversation. For what? I ain't gonna waste my time with you. I got a limited amount of years on this planet. I ain't gonna waste them just talking to you about stuff you don't understand. I'll recommend you a book if you want me to. I'll recommend you 2, 3, 4, 5 books. But I'm not gonna sit here and waste my time with you. I'm not gonna debate you on that level. I think you should introduce your family and friends to new information. But the point to which they come back to you and show you that they don't have either the fortitude or the desire or the intellectual capacity to deal with what you gave them. 860, I'm coming to you. 860, what's your name? Where are you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hi, my name's Alicia Jenkins. I'm calling from Hartford, Connecticut. I called in before. Hi, Yvette. I love your show.
Thank you.
I called in a few months ago when you were talking about P. Diddy and him starting his thing. But I just want to talk about a book that I'm reading right now since we're talking about Africa and the slave traders. It's called Barracoon, which is the story of the last black cargo. And this book is written by Zora Neale Hurston, written in the 1920s. And it has been disturbing to me when the man who is the one who is the last surviving on the last ship that was docked here in America in the late 1850s, he talks about how he was kidnapped by women warriors from a neighboring tribe and how his people were killed and massacred, and those that survived were brought to the coast and they were sold, and it was just horrific. And it's just it changed my whole view of seeing Africans who claim this pan-Africanism and all of that, and seeing that really in reading this has really been disturbing to me. But it's eye-opening. And Zora Neale Hurston, when she published it, she got a lot of hell for trying to publish it, and it didn't get published until years after she passed and years after she wrote it. And that says a lot about America omitting the history of, even though we ended the slave trade in the early 1800s, it still continued. It was a lot of black marketing, a lot of pirating, a lot of money being made.
Yeah.
And this comes from the Dahomey, or the Benin people, and they were making a shitload of money even after slavery ended in America, and they were just prospering off it. And that king was brutal and killed this man's entire family, and it was just. So this book, I'm telling everybody to read it, and I've lost Facebook friends, I've been blocked, and I don't give a damn. Like, delete me. I say black politics every day, all day. Delete me, American Black DOS. Delete me. I don't care. People always bring up the fact that I am black. I'm American Black and Haitian. But I am anchored in the Black American experience. I'm from the west side of Chicago, and I know last time when I called in, you told me that I should just probably move because it's difficult to do black politics out here in Hartford. But
yeah, I remember that.
To find the Black Americans that exist here in Hartford and do the black politics out here, because just as well as America can omit this history, they are also doing it out here in New England. So the name of the book is Barracoon, Barracoon. The Story of the Last Black Cargo, written by Zora Neale Hurston. Everybody and their mama should read it. Everybody should read it. It is a very important and vital history in regards to the slave trade and how Africans were brutal and how they snatched up people from neighboring villages that didn't even bother them, that they weren't even going to war with. Like, this book is it makes me mad.
You sound mad. You sound very mad.
Yes, but I'm reading it, and I'm glad that I'm reading it. But it's just. So I just had to say that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking my call.
I appreciate. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate that, and I appreciate any kind of book offering to the Breaking Brown family. We appreciate books. We got library cards, and we go and we buy, but we appreciate it. So I appreciate that. But like, understand that, like, a lot of these people that you don't even need, please don't mourn these people who block you on Facebook. I wish I had a badge of honor for everybody who blocked me on Facebook. I have a jean coat with names or something. Like, I wish it's a badge. It is a badge of honor that you become so upset because y'all are out here Westworlding. I call it Westworlding. Y'all are out here because your programming doesn't fit what I'm telling you. You're just like, what? What did you say? I didn't understand. And then you just block me. And you don't understand it. Like, you're wrong. Like, don't take any ownership for that. Don't be upset that you've been blocked by these people. These people don't know enough, and they're not trying to know enough. They've been propagandized. They've been programmed. And when you interfere with the programming, it's like, what? I have to block you now. Okay, well, keep it pimping. I'm going to 414 now. 414, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? You there, 414?
Hey, Yvette. This is Naomi from Milwaukee. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I've been listening to you for a while, so thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
I believe in education is really important and appreciate the role that you do in educating our people, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I just have a quick point. I just really agree with everything that you say. I really think that it's time for us to, learn the truth. I feel like it's time for us to hold each other accountable, including our oppressors and including those that, you speak of. I think that it's time for us to stop making excuses for just our lack of knowledge. We need to pick up those books. We need to read. We need to go out and vote for what matters to us. We just need to think ahead of time, generations ahead, because I feel like they are generations ahead of us. So I feel like we definitely need to be thinking ahead of the game and thinking to our children and our children's children. I feel like in steps we will be able to turn those into bigger strides. So I guess the story that I wanted to kind of mention is that my dad, he always told me that we have one strike against us, and that's the color of our skin. And, you know, after listening to you, I know we have two strikes against us, and that's because we're also descendants of slaves. So really we're in a position of the oppressed. We're not equal, and we only have one strike left. So I just want to remind people that after 3 strikes, you're out, and to stay focused and work fast. Thank you for everything.
No, thank you. I appreciate you calling in. Listen, if you don't get anything from me, everybody, everything is lineage. It's all lineage. It's not melanin. It's not black bodies. It's lineage. It's like everything. The most consequential thing in your life. The most consequential thing in your life, my life, American DOS, the most consequential thing in our lives is that we come from slaves. Because in the richest country in the world, being poor is a death sentence. And that's what we're facing. So that is the most consequential. People will be like, oh, you know, brother, we brown, or we black, and we both. No. You're running a scam on me. The most consequential thing in my life is my lineage. Don't talk to me about my heritage. Like, you could talk to me about my heritage if, like, Benin or Nigeria had given me some money. You could be like, well, your heritage matters because you got XYZ. No, I haven't gotten anything from that. My lineage is everything. So I'm going to 405. What is your name and where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Charlie calling from Texas. What's going on?
Not too much. What's going on, Charlie?
Hey, I just want to thank you because you're primarily the reason why I don't use the term people of color anymore.
Very good.
One because the FBI didn't say people of color extremists. He said black identity extremists, specifically the skeletons that are in their closet called the descendants of slaves. But it's funny how legacy works, if that means anything, because, you know, Nigerians do have the reputation for being scammers and fraudulent folks. And this kind of highlights the reasons for that. But this show also reminds me of when Paul Mooney did his stand-up and said that Africans wrote us off like a bad check, and he knew what time it was. But yeah, you remember that when he did that stand-up? The man is brilliant.
Yeah, he is.
But this, you know, part of me getting my political education is also just building my own internal lexicon again. And it's funny because I've been using this word confusion for the past week and having conversations with my friends. And I just use the word confusion. I just say confusion is when you forget who to be mad at. It's that simple.
And it's a lot of people to be mad at.
You robbed a lot of people to be mad at. And until we really understand this history, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, and I'm glad you're stirring this stuff up. Some people may say you cause them problems, but problems need to be dealt with. Yeah. But I will say this though, you know that African metaphor, that proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I'm going to say it takes a village to sell one too. And this article, this article this woman wrote for the New Yorker is a perfect metaphor. Because just as that they buried their slaves alive, if the descendants of slaves, the black Americans in this country don't wake up, they'll be buried alive too. And that's all I have to say.
Ooh, thank you, Carl. I sure appreciate you. Ooh, if you know, if we don't wake up, we'll be buried alive too. Just like the people that he put in the vault or casket or whatever. You gonna be. Oh, he said it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to sell one too. Ooh, everybody got to work together. They was working together on that coast to exploit. To sell flesh. They've been doing it and they mechanized it and figured it out, and white people just came there and made it worse. And there's a great actually I think it's a quote. If I can find it, I'm gonna bring it up. You know, so that just to kind of bring it home in terms of what happened. But you know, that is awful. That is awful. Let me just put this up. This is from Slate, if you all want to look it up. And it's an article about myths about the slave trade. And it it was talking about what African slaves sold slaves too as a myth, but then it just kind of told the truth about it. It says, but as historian Marcus Redlicker writes, the ancient and widely accepted institution of enslavement in Africa was exacerbated by the European presence. Yes, European slave traders entered pre-existing circuits of exchange when they arrived in the 16th. Look, understand, entered pre-existing. So you all were already selling slaves and enslaved people before they got there. Okay. But European demand changed the shape of this market, strengthening enslavers and ensuring that more and more people would be carried away. So what you're just saying is just like it further enriched the traders. So the African slave traders who were trading got more powerful, became more rich. And so you're saying that like when Europe entered in this, it changed it. It changed the trade, right? It made it stronger. But if you entered into an existing slave trade, that's what Europe did. So how do you then go and be like, no, it was just the Europeans came and they did it. No, the Europeans came and entered into something that was already existing. So I'm going to go to my last caller, 757. 757, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Good evening, Yvette. This is Otis.
What's going on, Otis? I didn't even recognize your number.
Look, I got to tell you, go to MoneyWeb. It was put out at 3 o'clock this evening. The POTUS Pookie, the former community activist in Chicago, well, his first stop since becoming president, his first stop was in South Africa in honor of the 100th birthday of Nelson Mandela. Guess what he had to say?
What did he say?
Back into some words from his father.
Okay.
He said his Kenyan-born father studied in the United States and later returned home as an economist. But he described the phenomenon of the best minds leaving for global centers abroad as a real issue. And what Obama had to tell these students in South Africa is more and more, not only are we seeing concentrations of wealth, we are seeing concentrations of talent in various global centers, whether it's Shanghai or Dubai. And his first visit to Africa after leaving in 2017, and he told these Africans, precisely because there may be less of a concentration of talent, the chances of being transformative are higher if you stay at home. Stop the brain drain to other countries. You need to stay at home and develop wealth. Now, he's saying that as a capitalist because his nonprofit, the Obama Foundation, runs a leadership program aimed at helping inspiring Africans to solve the problems at home. He said, if we have African leaders, governments, and institutions which are creating a platform for success and opportunity, then we will increasingly get more talent wanting to stay. Once you reach a tipping point, you will be able to stop the brain drain, then it will start reversing. So what I'm saying to you is I think Obama's been listening to your program because he's wrapped it in a package telling Africans they need to stop immigrating to America and other global centers of talent. They need to stay at home. So he's pretty much got your message all wrapped up in a neat little Obama package.
With a bow. He always got it with a bow. It's he adds a little finesse to it all the time.
And the other thing I want to say to you is he closed with something we can put on these Pan-Africans. He said he called on the Kenyan leaders and other African leaders to stop the divisive ethnic politics and clamp down on corruption. He couldn't do that here at home with the banks, but he's out there telling Africa what they need to do. Keep on doing what you're doing. I keep sending you some information.
Appreciate it.
Breaking Brown family.
Appreciate it, Breaking Brown fam. I want to thank you, Otis, and I want to make that. The last call for the evening. I want to thank everybody, and I apologize if I couldn't get to you this evening. I want to thank everybody for calling in and having the conversation. I want to tell you all for at least about 10 minutes though we had like not a lot of calls, and like I can't never like the pro Pan-Africanists. They always say like, why you didn't have me on? Like, I just don't understand. So, I want to thank everybody. I hope this was sort of, eye-opening in terms of what we like to talk about and what we need to talk about. What kind of trust do you have to have, honestly, when you think about it, to kind of put your child on a slave ship as an African, to put a child on a slave ship, like, what kind of relationships between chiefs and traders? Like, y'all, see, this is the thing we have to understand. These chiefs and stuff, and the people who do, they're close to the traders than, like, their own people. And then you want to invite that element into who we are and what we're trying to do. It don't mix. It's like oil and water. We don't mix. We don't go together. We got to break up. So I'm going to leave it at that. I want to thank everybody who called in. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Till Monday, Breaking Brown fam, keep reading the books, keep reading the article, keep sending me this stuff. I appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe, please hit the bell so you get notifications on when we come on. And we're going to keep doing this black politics thing, this black American black politics thing. And we don't really care who like it or who don't like it. We do what we do. Peace, fam.